We recognize that CVUUS gathers on land seized from the Western Abenaki people by European colonizers. We respect the Abenaki's spiritual relationship to the land and waters of the Champlain Valley. We are committed to building a peaceful and more just relationship with them and to promote knowledge about their history and culture. Good morning, and welcome to the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, CVUUS. My name is Martha Fulda, a member of this congregation and your worship associate today. Our settled minister, the Reverend Barnaby Feeder, is on sabbatical until August. Today's service is an annual event in Unitarian Universalist congregations, usually called the Flower Communion Service. Today, brought to you by the CVUUS Flower Co-op members. We especially want to thank Marnie Wood and Alice Berninghausen for their work in planning this service. Whoever you are, whatever your story, wherever the source of your faith, you are welcome here. We at the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society invite you to settle in, whether it's your first time here or you've been away for a while and are back, welcome. If you're joining us here in the sanctuary, welcome. If you're with us on Zoom, welcome. If you're new here, we invite you to sign our guest book in the lobby, or if you are with us on Zoom, find our virtual guest book in chat. In either place, you may introduce yourself and sign up to receive our monthly newsletter. We invite you to stay for our social hour downstairs following the service, so we can begin to get to know you, and you can begin to get to know us. Beware. There will not be a Zoom broadcast next week. As we begin our protocols for tech-free summer services, our tech team deserves a break. So come here in person. We strive to be a welcoming and active presence in the community, working together to build a world which is more beautiful, just, and compassionate. There are many ways, and more all the time, that we connect with one another in fulfilling that mission between Sundays. The best way to stay in touch with the many activities going on at CVUUS is announcements in your order of service, or the weekly email blast sent out on Wednesdays by Laura Asurmali, our office manager. If you would like to be added to this email list, call the church office.
Good morning. The Flower Communion service was begun 99 years ago to celebrate beauty and diversity. Subsequently, it has come to affirm that love will survive in the face of oppression and disaster. Our themes today are resilience, mutuality, unity, and hope. Please join us in a musical call to worship. Please stand as you're able and sing hymn number 328. I think it'll be on the screen.
Please join us in reading our chalice lighting, but I don't know if it's up there. However, I will read it as Dinah lights the chalice. May the light we now kindle help us to see what is seed and what is flower in our lives, and lead us through the endless transformations of one into the other. Our responsive reading today is written by the Reverend Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Some of you may remember Amy being part of our CVUUS community several years ago. I will read the bold, and congregation, please read the italicized words, and then the last words we shall read together. Within the heart of the flower, within the heart of the community, within the heart of each of us, holy, holy, holy. So now it is time for our first hymn, which is a song that is a slight departure from our usual hymns, but I do believe that most of you will probably know it. Where have all the flowers gone? And the words should be up on the screen.
Where have all the flowers
It is time for our weekly collection. Each Sunday, our congregation shares our collection basket with another organization whose values align with ours. For the month of June, we will be contributing to the Addison County Community Trust, the local nonprofit which develops, owns, and manages affordable housing, including rental apartments, mobile home parks, single-family homes, and senior housing. We know how essential this work is for the health of our communities. Please join us with as generous a donation as you can. This is also the time for those of you with yellow cards to place them in the basket. We all have times in our lives full of great joy or deep concern. In our congregation, we often share these times during worship services via yellow cards, but today there are no yellow cards. So we know there are those here who have been living with great joys or deep concerns and are keeping them close and private. Please join me in a moment of silence while we hold them in all our hearts with love.
Hi, I have a story. It's about flowers, and it's about one of the themes of our service today. And it's mostly for children, so if children might want to come up, if there are children. Children are busy with other things. I see one child. If you need to see better, you can come and sit in front of the screen because the pictures will be on the screen. There's a word in the story that children might not know, and that is pheromone. The pheromone in this story is a smelly chemical that ants make that send messages to other ants about food and danger. And there's another word that you won't actually hear in the story, and that's what the story is about, and that word is mutualism. And we'll talk about mutualism a little bit later. So, to Scout and Lucy. One bright summer day, an ant named Scout crawled through the grass above his home and caught the smell of something sweet. Being a scout ant, after all, he was used to finding the most lovely, most delicious scents in the garden. Scout smiled at the thought of sharing such a fragrant feast with his colony. But when Scout looked up and saw her, a peony, he no longer thought of food. He instantly, entirely fell in love. "I shall call her Lucy," he said aloud, and he found that he very much enjoyed the sound of her name. Lucy's stems were tall and green, her leaves smooth and shiny. Her blossoms, not yet open, promised pink and white flowers by the hints of coloring circling their edges. She was beautiful, Scout thought. Beautiful indeed. Yet, as Scout stood still, staring up in delight, his tummy began to grumble. He felt as if he were being tugged toward her. Suddenly, he realized why. "Oh, it can't be. I want to eat her. I want to eat my dear Lucy." Still, nectar oozed from Lucy's buds, and the urge to scurry up her stems was strong. All on their own, Scout's antennae shook, and fragrant pheromones streamed from his belly to attract other ants. "Oh dear," he said, "the others will be here soon. Quick, I must find a distraction." Scout looked left, he looked right. Far in the distance, he saw a human family gathered under a broad maple tree. They were spreading a blanket. "That's a sign of a picnic," Scout said. "I will lead the others there instead." Scout scurried toward the blanket, and soon hundreds of ants followed. One by one, they climbed and nibbled corn chips, grapes, and cheese sandwiches. "Phew," Scout sighed with relief. For today, his Lucy was safe. The next day, drawn again by her sweet nectar, Scout found himself in Lucy's garden. For a moment, he forgot himself and looked up to admire her beauty. Scout's body began to twitch. His pheromones started streaming. "Oh no, not again," he worried. "The other ants will be here soon. Quick, I must distract them." Scout looked left. He looked right. In the far corner of the garden, he saw a young chokecherry. It was growing bright and green with white and yellow flowers and hanging in its heavy clusters in its branches. "Perfect," Scout said. "I will lead the others there instead." Scout hurried toward the tree, and sure enough, a long line of ants soon followed into the garden and marched up the narrow trunk. One by one, they sipped the flower's sweet nectar. "Phew," Scout sighed with relief. For today, Lucy was safe. On the third day, Scout woke up hungry as usual and, without thinking, followed his antennae to Lucy's garden. Standing at her base, he watched her buds loosen in the soft morning light. Scout swooned. "She is even more lovely than yesterday," Scout said, and lingered despite the scent trail quickly forming behind him. Awed by Lucy's splendor, Scout forgot to look for a distraction. He could barely move. Moments later, a line of ants streamed into the garden and up Lucy's long stems. Soon, dozens surrounded her blossoms, eating and collecting her nectar. Scout shut his eyes, too afraid to watch, too afraid to see his Lucy trampled. Eventually, one after the other, the ants climbed down, bellies and backs full of food. Scout hid in the grass, too nervous to look. Once the garden grew quiet again, Scout finally glanced up, and to his delight, Lucy remained tall, and now her soft pink and white petals cascaded open. She hadn't been trampled after all. She had bloomed. "Oh, Lucy, you're more beautiful than ever," Scout proclaimed with a smile. And when he did, he was sure her flowers smiled back. Now, even more in love, Scout wasn't afraid. He had helped, not hurt his Lucy, his beloved peony. So, the sticky stuff on the peony turned out to be yummy food for the ants, and it was the gooiness of it was keeping the flowers from being able to open. The ants got to eat, the peonies got to bloom, a win-win situation. And that is what we call mutualism in nature. Another thing you should know is that this story was written by a 9-year-old. I am sure most of you children have made up stories. So tell your stories, draw them, talk about them, even if they are about crazy ideas like ants falling in love with a plant. Maybe someday your grandmother will get to stand up in front of her friends and read your story, and your whole family will be proud.
I can't top that. I won't try. More than half a century ago, the poet paleontologist Lauren Isley wrote that flowering plants were crucial props and prods to the evolution of birds and then mammals. He said, "The agile brain of the warm-blooded birds and mammals demands a high oxygen consumption and food in concentrated forms, or the creatures cannot sustain themselves." He wrote, "It was the rise of flowering plants that provided that energy and changed the nature of the living world. The appearance of flowers parallels in a quite surprising manner the rise of birds and mammals." So this is an excerpt from a book by Rebecca Solnit, and the title of it is Orwell's Roses. So here we have Isley, Lauren Isley, putting a spotlight on the relationship between flowers with their seed-producing functions and animals that evolved an intricate and interconnected world, the concentrated food flower stuffs, speeding the evolution of mammals. Please stand as you are able and sing Spirit of Life. This Unitarian Universalist tradition of the annual flower celebration, which we've known as a flower communion, was initiated in Prague on June 4th, 1923, 99 years ago, by Norbert Čapek, who was the founder of the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia. His congregation came together from very diverse practices of Catholicism, Judaism, and Protestantism. To unify his congregation, he chose to bring focus to the universal beauty of nature, to make the point that each individual brings a unique gift to the community. Čapek asked each participant to bring a single flower to the celebration. In our celebration this morning, we honor Čapek's legacy of gathering to enjoy the beauty of flowers, and more importantly, the contributions that each of us bring to this and the greater community. This year, as we're preparing for the service, the members of the CVUUS Flower Co-op are thinking about another reason flowers are so meaningful to us, particularly here in Vermont, where we can rejoice in the passing of the seasons. We shed our coats and snow tires in relief, and then we put them on again when we're surprised by the snows, and then seesawing temperatures with heat, freezing, and heat. We cheer when the tulips and the daffodils and the scilla dazzle us, they dance in the breeze. And we find them the next day encased in ice, thawed the following day, and then once again covered with snow. They are the embodiment of resilience. The fact that we're gathered here this morning after more than 2 years of grinding isolation is a tribute to the resilience of each of us and our congregation. The resilience of these North Country flowers, so vibrant here after a winter that wouldn't quit, reminds us of resilience evident all over the world today. Resilience in response to injustice, prejudice, deprivation, war, and suffering of all kinds. We seek to extend the fellowship and support we feel in this room to our brothers and sisters and all living things everywhere in the world. And now, from the global to the local, we pay a tiny tribute to all of you. Early in the years of our flower co-op, Pat, who's not here, advised us to pay attention, I hope she's watching on Zoom, to the flowers in the fields. We did that, Marnie and I. We found asters, black-eyed Susans, sunflowers, and tall grasses to grace the sanctuary. We continue to explore the fields. Bobby brought hedgerows in March while the ground was still frozen, and along each side of the sanctuary this spring, the leaves budded and the flowers broke out. In this corner of the stage, the genius of John's birches, tall and stark, are reminders of our rootedness to this planet. Marnie's practice of breaking down Sunday's arrangements into small flower bouquets to share with individuals expands the care and warmth outside the sanctuary. This list is too long to share in its entirety, but here are a few more examples. Sue's long stems of Joe Pye weed, big sprays of purple Russian sage from Marnie's yard. I didn't think I'd cry. Sorry. Alice and Marnie's Christmas pine cones, evergreen branches from Doug's woods, Martha's tall zinnias, feathery grasses, allium globes, seed pods from Sheila and Bob. These things and more are offered by you, generous members and friends of CVUUS. And right here. The Flower Co-op gives them back to you each week for your meditation, a resting place for your busy minds, and sustenance for your hearts. I don't think I took anything here.
I've got it all in my hot little hand. Thanks, Dinah. Yeah, I'm trying not to cry too. And thank you, Bobby, wherever you disappeared to. That, and Jess, well, everyone. But I wanted to mention especially how lovely Bobby's book was, and I don't think she mentioned that she did the illustrations in there. Am I correct on that, Dinah? Yes. So it's all beautiful. So I would like to bring your attention to the lovely image that's up on our screen, and it's right here on our easel as well. This beautiful pastel rendition of sunflowers was created by an artist friend. His name is Joe Cluck, and he lives in good old Scranton, Pennsylvania, my hometown. Its purpose has been to act as a facilitator for fundraising for Ukraine. And so far, Joe has managed to raise close to $10,000 for that devastated country with his work of art. He calls the piece Sending Ukraine, and he explains the symbolism this way. The background is blue and yellow for the colors of the Ukrainian flag. The petals surrounding the center are the flames of war. The seeds signify the people standing together and strong against the flames. The green leaves are a sign of hope for new growth. The sunflower, which is the national flower of Ukraine, has become a symbol of hope and solidarity and the resilience of the Ukrainian people. Joe used his gift as an artist to create something absolutely beautiful that he hopes will help ease some suffering in the world. And today, our own beloved community will begin the creation of some other beautiful, lovely things using our talents as sowers of seeds to create additional symbols of hope and resilience, sending some beauty into the world and extending our message of today's service to the greater community. So this is the fun part. So today we will begin planting sunflower seeds in all these little peat pots that you see on the tables beside you, on either side of the room. They are for you to take home and nurture to hopefully become a striking flower. So the tables, as I said, are on either side of the room. And we ask that you please go to a table that's on your side of the room. And there you will find, and there will be assistants there to help you with all of this. There you will find the peat pots in sets of 4, like long set of 4, not a square set of 4, all filled with pre-moistened soil. You will also see bowls of various sunflower seeds. Take a seed or 2 or 3 even, and because we have plenty, take a seed and press it firmly into the soil about 1/2 to 1 inch deep. There may be some little sticks or something here to actually make the hole with, but you can also just push it in with your little finger. And repeat that with each of your 4 pots. And I will just warn you up front, they are a little bit tippy, so we've tried to account for that, but just beware. You will also find slips of paper and markers to put your name on and place near your potted plants to identify them. You may leave your pots on the tables until the end of the service. Please return to your seats after the planting. And while we are doing our planting, we will enjoy hearing Ronnie play the Ukrainian national anthem, as well as a traditional folk song of Ukraine. The song is about a young girl who refuses to bow to the pressures of the small-minded people in her town who are saying that she cannot be with the young Cossack that she loves. So let's get started, and we'll see how this goes. I can't wait to see all these beautiful sunflowers blooming all over Addison County and wherever else they may land. So thank you. We have a short benediction today, which I will read. And after our benediction, please come to the front to choose a flower from this absolutely beautiful arrangement. And that is for you to take home. And then please collect your seeded pots and join us downstairs for coffee, etc. Have I forgotten anything? No. Okay. Our benediction today is, it's a favorite piece of mine, and it's attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. Where hate rules, let us bring love. Where sorrow, joy. Let us strive more to comfort others than to be comforted, to understand others than to be understood, to love others more than to be loved, for it is in giving that we receive, and in pardoning that we are pardoned.